Hello everybody, it's time for another still frame review. Back on Easter, good golly, has it been that long already? Well anyway, back on Easter, my brother Johnny asked me to review the first, and supposedly one of the best, animated Batman movies called Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Based on Batman the Animated Series and released in 1993 while the series was still ongoing, Mask of the Phantasm was the first film in the DC animated universe, and the only one to be released theatrically. A phantasmic figure, who wears a mask, is hunting down one of Gotham's gangs and killing the leaders one by one. As Batman tries to deduce who the mysterious Phantasm is, he becomes haunted by his ex-fiancée, and we get to see his previous life in flashbacks when he first became Batman right before his relationship was torn asunder by the gang. Now, this movie wasn't originally going to be released theatrically, but right in the middle of production, they decided to go ahead and do it, and so they had to cut the schedule in half and get this whole movie animated in just under a year. And this was already a low-budget production anyway, at only $6 million. Alright, so what's good about this movie? Even though this was a very low-budget and rushed production, the folks who worked on it still gave it their all, even with the limited resources they had. For instance, they couldn't do very detailed, realistic character design, so they keep this real simple, cartoony style, yet they still use heavy noir shadows and composition to give it so much more texture than designs like this normally would have. You couldn't really have all that much action in the fight scenes, but the filmmakers still made up for it in the sound design, creating these really violent punches and kicks and snaps that made the whole thing feel really energetic. Also, the musical score really owns it, and they go all in with the choir, and this is actually one of the composer's favorite compositions they did. Now normally a cheap, low-budget, animated, intended for TV Batman movie would just be kind of laughed off as kind of goofy, but no, everyone brings it in, owns it, and in the end it all works. Besides the technical quality, I was worried that if this story was the same as all the other Batmans, it'd just feel like a cheap knockoff of Burton or Nolan. But this movie has a different flavor entirely. In this version of Batman's origin story, we get to see a different side of his internal struggle, since this version has his fiancée knowing about his becoming Batman, and we get to see his struggle between feeling obligated to become Batman and him trying to avoid that obligation and give his fiancée a safe life. Also, Joker is featured in this movie, and this is the first time I've ever seen Mark Hamill's version of Joker. And I really like this Joker's faux sophistication and his debonair angle, which is an entirely different flavor of Joker than we've seen anywhere else. Well, actually, Cesar Romero did do that a little bit, but he was also pretty crazy, but this Joker, this guy's a gangster. And in fact, this whole movie is a gangster movie, which gives it an entirely different flavor. You can see so many inspirations from the gangster movies of the 30s and 40s, and the influence even carries over to this movie's sort of cheesy dialogue, but everyone still takes it seriously enough to make it work. It's all a pretty predictable story, as it is based off of those classic 30s and 40s gangster movies, but it doesn't come across as boring or cliche. It's still tropey, but it's all the good tropes that everyone likes, no matter how often you see it. So, by the time I was finished watching the movie, it still felt like a good, classical old time. Now, there are still some bad points to the movie. The animation is, after all, still very cheap and old. There's a ton of film grain, and the lips don't match up to the voices, and those can get kind of distracting at times, but more so in the beginning. Once you get into it, you kind of learn to filter it out. Also, overall, the sequences are limited to the medium. So, especially the action, it cannot be as good as it could be if it was in a different medium such as live action or maybe even CGI. Ugh, CGI Batman movie. I don't think that'd be very... No, there was a Lego Batman movie. That was good. Anyway, for the story also does not escape the bad points because while most of all it was pretty enjoyable, the ending is a little haphazard and sloppily thrown together. But overall, I think the good far outweighs the bad, and I'm gonna give this movie a B for Batman. It's artful and entertaining, dark yet restrained, and cheesy, but with zero cringe. I had never seen an animated Batman movie before, unless you count the Lego Batman movie, but my brother told me that this was supposed to be one of the best animated Batman films, and I believe him. While not the best Batman movie in general, it was thoroughly decent, and I even enjoyed it more than some of the live-action films. So those are my thoughts about the film. Let me know yours, and as always, let me know of any other movies you'd like me to review. It may take me 3 months, good grief, 3 months to get around to it, but I will get around to it. See you later.